Okay, welcome to our video. So we're planning on building an app that allows you to text it and sign up for election notifications. So to get started, we need to get some data. So this video is just simply going to be us showing a web scraping tutorial and how to scrape some election dates that we'll save for our upcoming app.
Sounds good. Yeah. So first things first is finding what website to scrape for data.
Yeah, exactly. So we found a repo online and we forked it and we cleaned it up a bit. And the website that they used was this usvotefoundation.org. And so let's just take a look at it and just talk about what we want to scrape here. So this is an example for up here. You can see in the state name, in the URL that I put the state name for Alabama. And this returned the upcoming elections for Alabama. So right now they just have the general election coming up. So, November 3rd, it's coming up. Go register to vote. But anyway, so what we want to do is scrape this data. So our goal is going to be simple. We're just going to scrape this header right here, and we're going to store it in a CSV for now. Later on, we're going to store it in a database so that we can make queries on it. And we're just going to store 3 pieces of information: the title of the election, and the date. And then, of course, the state name, which we already have. And so we have to pass the state name anyway, so we're going to already have to create some states. Let's take a look at another example, because we've been talking about Texas, which has more than just one upcoming election for some reason. So they have one here on the 29th for Senate, and then for some reason they have
general elections for different. Yeah, they have different general elections of some sort.
Yeah.
So we'll just grab.
Yeah.
Yeah, hopefully we just want to grab all of them.
Know what this is talking about.
Right.
So yeah, so basically what we're going to do is we're going to pull this up. We're going to use we're going to pull this up and we're going to scrape just the headers, turn it into a CSV, and for us to use later. And so what we're going to use is we're going to use 2 libraries. We're going to use the request library. Famous library, old. There's a new one called R2 now, but we're going to use the normal request one because that's what you might see in practice. And this only works when the website is server-side rendered. Okay, so there's different tools like Puppeteer,
Phantom.js, Playwright, all
exactly.
those. Yeah, all those will are
handle single-page apps, right? Like
exactly, and it will load JavaScript is the big thing that they do.
Right. So request just makes a response and gets the server request. It doesn't actually wait for JavaScript to be parsed in the browser. The other ones are headless. They actually open up a browser and wait for the JavaScript to parse before they parse it itself. So anyway, we're going to use request in Cheerio. Cheerio is kind of like a jQuery port to Node.js. So anyway, let's get started. So we're going to start by just creating an empty project. So I'm just going to make a directory called election scraper. I'm going to go into it, scraper, and I'm going to do npm init to start a new node project. -y just means yes to everything because I don't really want to specify. So we're going to open this up in VS Code. And here it is. Cool. So all we got right now is our package.json. So I'm going to go ahead and quit out of the terminal and just use the terminal here. All right. So like I said, we want to use 2 packages. More specifically, we're going to use request promises, which is maintained by request, but it just gives promise support because request came out way back in the day before promises were even in JavaScript. And we'll see how we use that later. So it's not too much different. So I'm going to do npm install, I'm going to do request promise, and we're also going to use Cheerio.
And I think you spelled Cheerio wrong.
Just
2 E's. Yep.
There we go. All right. I don't think I have to say save, but whatever. Just for.
Yeah, it's the old habits. Continue to save. I don't think you have to anymore.
All right. So I'm going to create a new file here, touchindex.js, and we're going to get started. Let me just, all right, cool. So the first thing we want to do, I'm just going to set up a init function here. I always try to put my code in a initializer. I guess, yeah, let's just do that. Because I'm going to be doing some await async. So let's just call it init. If I can, I've been typing in too many other languages. I was doing bash. All right. So we got our initialization function here. And we'll call it down here. We're going to use a, oh, what are these called? I keep forgetting. Self-calling function. Oh my God, I forget what they're called. It's like iffy or whatever, I think is what it's called.
Oh, sure.
Thing. So I'm just going to call that function, just have to wrap it. I think in the newer versions of Node, you don't have to do this anymore. You can just call it. But I don't think that works here. Let's just try it real quick. I have Node 12, but maybe you need Node 14 to do that.
Yeah, it's very, very new.
Yeah, it doesn't work. Only invalid in function right now. So it's not on Node 12. All right, so for now, we'll just do this for support for people anyway.
Yeah, still have to do the immediate invoking functions.
Iffy.
Right.
Anyway, so all this is a self-calling function. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to get that HTML using request. So let's go ahead and import that package up here. So I'm just going to do constant RP equals require request promise. Okay, so RP allows us to make GET requests, post requests, etc. So I'm going to say constant HTML. That's by default. That's what it does. You can pass other options. And I'm going to say RP and then that URL. I'll grab that in a second. Oh, I need to await it. That's it. That's all we have to do. So let me grab that URL. I'm just going to make a new variable for that. Okay, and let's go ahead and log it. You know what? We should be pros. We should use the debugger, right?
Yeah. Let's
do that. So I'll click the debugger. I'm gonna go click run and debug. I'm gonna say Node.js.
And it won't load. Did you install request as well?
Did install request.
Oh, so that's one. So for request promise has dependency of request, the original library.
And it does say that right here on my notes, so I just completely skipped that. All right, so.
And then install.
If I can spell right. There we go.
There we go.
All right, let's try this again. Do this, Node.js, bam.
You will need to add a breakpoint.
Yep. All right, so that worked. Wait, how do I do the launch file? Okay, I'm just gonna click create a launch file so we don't have to keep doing this each time. I'm gonna select Node.js one more time. That's what I wanted to do. That creates a little launch file for VS Code, so now it knows what to do with our program. And now I will do the breakpoint that Craig wanted.
And then now we just have to do launch program instead of choosing that's Node.js every single time.
Exactly. All right. So I'm just gonna step over that real quick, and now we can see in this over here all the HTML that we got. You can see that includes all the CSS and JavaScript. Nothing was rendered. All right, this is just straight what if you make a GET request like in Postman or whatever, or just from curl, this is what it gets you back. All right, cool. So now we want to parse that stuff. So let's go ahead and stop this right here. And we're going to use Cheerio for that. Okay. So this will allow us to, Cheerio is going to parse the HTML and then allow us to do kind of like jQuery style stuff, which is like, back in the day before we had document query selector all, it's going to allow us to like select elements and stuff. So I'm assuming that you've at least seen jQuery a lot. If not, you can still kind of follow along. Hopefully you know how to do CSS selectors.
Yeah, this is just any way we can traverse our HTML and parse what we need. So yeah, it's a decent library for this. We have our gripes with it, but it's going to do really well for our purposes right now.
Exactly. And we learned a lot about Cheerio and how to make it at least work a little bit better.
Right.
All right, so we're going to use the $ to name, which is the significant jQuery, the iconic jQuery variable, and we'll do Cheerio.load, and this is in the docs for Cheerio as well. So we're kind of just pulling from there.
Yeah, and we'll add the documentation for all these libraries. You can see the code after the fact. We'll have all of that in notes.
Exactly, all of our notes. All right, so let's go ahead and breakpoint, just see what it is, and then we're going to go take a look at what we want to parse. But I just want to show that we can parse it. All right, we got a breakpoint right there. We step right over that. And this is a Cheerio object. Okay, so we got that parsed. And what we can do here with this object is we can pass CSS selectors here, right? So hashtag my ID is going to return a Cheerio element, kind of like a DOM element in Windows, in a normal browser window.
Right.
All right, cool. So let's go check out the website and see what we want to parse. All right, so looking at the website here, we know we want to parse these headers. So let's look at the selectors here. So we're going to inspect right here, and I'm going to notice that it's an H2 file, but there's no identifying information. I don't want to select all H2s, so I'm going to go one element up, and then there is an election title. So I think I want to just select all election titles. We can even do something here just to check. I'm going to go to the console and just do document.querySelector all. And then just pass in that election titles, I think, right?
It's
nope. Maybe
election title, just without the S.
Right. Okay. There we go.
And now we can, if we just hover over these, it'll show us in our page here, and those do look like it gets all the election headers.
Yep. Perfect. That was easy enough. So we're just going to take this selector back to our code. All right, so let's just do election titles. Okay, and this is going to return a list of Cheerio elements, right? So we don't want the elements. So like this, just like DOM elements, but instead of nodes here, it's returning Cheerio elements. So just like in DOM, what we usually do is we want to get the inner HTML or the text inside of it. We want to do the same thing in Cheerio. So what we can do is we can map this, use one of those higher order functions, and pass in a closure here or callback function to get that text. So each time Cheerio calls map, it's going to pass in, it's going to bind to the this object, which is one of our gripes.
Right, which means we can't use arrow functions. We have to use the syntax has to be like this.
Right, because it has to bind to the way the bind works.
Yes.
And then we can get the text from the element. So for example, we're going to say constant element here equals, and then we're going to use that Cheerio wrapper for this. And if you've seen this, this is pretty much how jQuery works. It's the same kind of concept. They bind. So I think they're just kind of mimicking jQuery back in the day.
Right.
And then what we can do is we can return element.text. Okay. And we can store that in an array. So we're going to do election headers, and we'll take a look at this, we'll take a look at this function in a second. Election headers. Okay, let me just kind of format this for myself here a little bit. Now, this doesn't return, what I would expect this to return is the text here. Well, let's go ahead and check it out. And we're going to see that it doesn't do that. So let's go ahead and refresh my debugger. And I'm going to step over it. And we're going to see here that we didn't get, like I did it again. Sorry.
Oh, you did the titles again.
Yep. All right, change that. Okay, now we see that we got an array of 11 elements. And it looks like the text.
Yeah. But you can see that it's actually, the array is in an object that Cheerio gives us. And so we have our text in an array at the top, but it's giving us, there's all these values in this object we don't want, like root, length, options.
Yeah. So
this is a Cheerio object.
Yeah, so this is a Cheerio object. And so if we want to turn it back into like normal JavaScript object, we just use the get function. This is in the documentation. And this is going to turn it back into an array of strings.
Right.
Let's check that out. All right, so I'm going to step over it. And now we just have a plain array. See, just array, a length, and the normal prototype of an array. Cool. Yeah, all right, so now we're going to loop over these texts, and we're going to parse it out. So let's take a look at what we want to parse. So again, our goal here is we want to create a CSV of state, title, date. Okay. So now we have an array of all these elements. I guess we can look at it in the debugger too. See, here's an example. Let me just pull it out. All right. So we have the string. So we just need to parse the string, right? We're going to split on this element right here. And then that'll return us the date. And then to the right, we're going to have the title.
Right.
So that's all we need to do. Cool. And then we can also format the date. Oh yeah, let's change the format of the date because
this is a human readable format, but we're going to want it in a computer readable format.
And we could use something like moment, or there's a new one out, Node.js, I think, but let's not use another library. Let's just do a little bit of manual parsing here. So
right.
All right, cool. So let's do this. So we're going to do another map. So let's do constant. What do I want to call this? Okay, yeah, we're gonna turn a bunch of strings. Well, here I don't need to name it yet. Let's just do election headers.map. And here now I can use my nice arrow functions. Where'd my cursor go? Okay, so this is gonna give us one of those strings. So we've got a header here. And all right, we want to parse it. So the first thing I want to do is I'm gonna split it. Okay, just like here, I can keep that example up here.
Yeah,
it's gonna be a little bit better. All right, so I'm gonna split it here
right
first.
There.
Okay,
and we're doing that because we see that there's a pattern for all these headers. All these headers match that same pattern, so we can reasonably make an assumption that when we're scraping, all these headers will be the same format, having the space dash space in there.
But these assumptions are what break your code too. So,
True.
And that is when you're scraping, this is kind of the deal, right? Like when you're web scraping, you have to, Okay, cool. So then that's going to give us, date here and then a title here. And we can do the debugger in a second to check that out. But let me just go ahead and let me create a date variable. And then I'm going to go ahead and let JavaScript parse it itself.
Because JavaScript can parse a human readable date and turn it into a date object.
Yeah, sometimes. And you got to worry about times, but
yeah, this is very true. We don't need to worry about that right now.
Yeah, but we're not worrying about times. So like we're just going to be, if you're close to the date, we're going to remind you.
Right.
And then we'll have the title equals the second item in the split. All right, so let's just go ahead and check this out. Comment that because that'll break. Remove this breakpoint. Did not let me. There we go.
There you go.
All right, refresh my debugger. And okay, so we got the split here, and you can see that it's split. The first item is that human readable date, and then the second one is the title. And then, so let's just step through here a little bit. So date, parsed it, which is fine, although it did add my time zone, so we don't know if that's correct. But in this case, it's fine. It'll parse the server's time zones, and so on my computer, it's using my time zone, yeah?
Yeah.
And then we're just going to store that title in another variable. So we're good to go.
Yep.
Okay, so I want to format that date. So we got some JavaScript helpers for that. So I'm just going to split it out into month, month, day, year, and then I'm just going to create, let me just show you what I want to do. So I'm going to say formatted date equals, I want to do month / day / year. That's a little bit more standardized, at least for America. I guess.
For America, yeah, I was about to say that this is American format. We don't want to hear it. That's all we got.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. So to get the month, we use the get month function, but that returns a 0 value, and there's no 0 month for us, so we plus 1. So for example, like on January, this get month is going to return 0, so we just add 1 to be like January. Day, same way, we can do date dot get date, which will return the month date, and then year equals day dot get full year. Okay, so that should return us a nice date. And then I'm just going to return an array of, well, I want to.
We want 3 values.
Yeah, I want 3 values. I want state, and then I want title, then I want date.
Yeah.
Or reverse.
So let's do title and date because we have them right there, and we're going to be passing in the state. We'll have that as we pass it in because we're going to be scraping through every single state. But right now, you can just we're just hard coding the URL.
Yeah, and let's keep this localized so we don't have to have something. So I mean, I could put the state up here, but I wanted to have global variables. So let's just for now let's do this. Let's do title and then formatted date. Yep.
Right.
All right, so then this is going to be our, row data. And so this is one row without the state.
Yep.
All right, so let's check out what this does, yeah? And we can step through it a little bit to get an idea.
Yeah, and we'll take a look at.
All right, so let's refresh here. Okay, so
just
check out on the debugger. You can see that it parsed the date. Hold on, what the string was, September 29th. So I parsed it to the 9 for September 29th day here. The year is 2020. Let's step over this. You can see that my string formatter did 9/29/2020. That's great. Take one more step, and we can see the return value is the title and then that date. So let's take another step. Oh, well, this is going to go through each one. I don't want to do that. So let me come down here, create a breakpoint. I'm going to go ahead and play so we can check out what the row data looks like. And so we can see in row data that we have
an array of all of our arrays, which have the title and the formatted date in each one, which is the header values that we parsed.
Exactly. We have an array of arrays. Perfect. Okay, so now what we want to do is we want to combine these into a CSV, right? So the CSV, for you that don't know, it's comma separated, right? So we're going to have like title, comma, date, comma, state, something like this. So for each, so we need to go over each of these rows and join them into columns. So let's do that first to make them strings. So we're keeping it separated. So, I mean, yes, we could have done that right here, but we're keeping things separated. So like, just to keep it simple.
Keep it simple. And when we start to refactor, you'll kind of see where everything goes and how we have a function just returning one value, and you know exactly what's going in and out.
Yeah, exactly. You know, it's a solid principle, right? Keep it single responsibility. So all this does is parse just that header. We don't want it to parse and then create a row string because, I mean, we can, and then later on, you know, what if you want to format it into something else like HTML, right? And then you want to join it based on like a table element. So you're gonna have to change that in this code. So it's kind of being coupled. We want to separate that coupled out. Honestly, it's just a choice. And since we've already like kind of thought about this app, we know that it's nice to separate it out. So let's create that as row strings. So we're going to do row data dot map. And what I want to do is return strings here. So right now I have an array of arrays. I want to turn that into an array of strings. So this is a row, and I'm just going to return row dot join based on the comma.
Yeah, they're comma separated.
So let's refresh this and see what it looks like. There we go. So now see row data is the array of arrays. Now we got an array of strings. And then we want to join these by new lines to create that CSV.
Right.
All right, so let me go ahead and remove this. And then, so we can call this line items, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Row strings equals that join /in. So that's going to give us that CSV look. Let's just check that out.
Yep.
All right, let me go ahead and refresh that. So we should have one string now, and we do. Here it is. Big.
Yeah, and when it's actually in a CSV file, we won't have those new lines. There'll actually be new lines in the file.
Right, exactly. Okay, and that's also just for one state, but let's go ahead and save it to a file and see what happens, yeah?
Yeah.
All right, here. So let's do, all right, so actually, whenever I import local JavaScript, like standard library stuff, I put that above contributed libraries.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'm gonna do FS, which is the file system standard library for Node. And what we're gonna do down here is we're gonna do f.writeSync. And some people might be like, why are you using sync? Well, this is a command line app right now, so we don't mind blocking the event loop if you know about that kind of stuff. Yeah. So we did say that we want to build a web app later, so we will need to consider that. We don't want to block the event loop. Synchronous stuff, especially IO, does block the event loop, so we might need to change that later. Yeah. Anyway, that's for you performance junkies out there. So right now we just got a command line app. So let's do /. We could do dir name. What do we want to call this? Elections. .csv, yeah?
Yep.
And then I want to, no, not JSON. I just want to say the line item set. It's already a formatted string.
Yep.
I was about to JSON stringify it because I'm so used to
no need.
Okay, I think we're good. Let's go ahead and run it.
You need to remove your breakpoint probably.
I think it'll save it.
Oh, good. There we go. So now we've got, this is data we've been seeing in the debugger, but it actually saved it to a CSV that we can actually pull from later instead of having to run this every single time. We run this once. Election data is not going to change every month, or it's definitely not going to change every day. So when we say general elections on November 3rd, that one's probably not going to change.
Hopefully not.
Hopefully not.
And yeah, our game plan here is we're going to have like a cron job in the future, and we'll talk about that in a separate video that'll be running. And, we might make it run like once a week to go ahead and pull that stuff. So also, again, with that synchronization, if it's running once a week, we're not expecting a lot of like hits. It's something we can abide by, but good to make a note.
Right.
When you do your performance checks, you need to check for event blocking. All right, so we noticed that we're missing our headers up here.
Yep.
So we could just like, append those headers right here. So let me just show you what that looks like. So I could say, we're also missing the state name too. So anyway,
right, but
we'll need to fix a few things.
Looping through them. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and, actually before we even do that, let's just go ahead and we did that for one state, but we want to do it for multiple states.
Right.
Okay. So we can write a big for loop around this, so let's pull in a couple states, for example. So I'm just going to make a variable up here called states. And then I have a list of states over here. Okay. So I could wrap this whole thing in a for loop, but let me go ahead and separate out let's do a little bit of refactoring. So I'm not looping around this big monolith here. So what we can do, we can see that we have this parsing the jQuery stuff. So that's a good function. So let's do function, let me create a function for that. So let's parse HTML. And so we'll pass it the HTML in here, and then we want to return that parse stuff. So let's the election headers, yeah?
Yep.
We could even say get election headers.
Yeah.
Okay. And then we'll return that. you know, and it's okay to not, you know, refactor 100%, to write your code 100% the first time. I disagree with this kind of methodology, prototype and then refactor. So
we're refactoring it because we've looked at it and we've thought about how to refactor it.
But even if you haven't looked at it yet, we're now about to add a new feature. Okay, so we just did one feature. We did one state. Mm-hmm. Now someone came back to us and they said, why don't you do multiple states? Okay, that's a good time to refactor. Like, look at how long this function is. If you were running this through Code Climate or something, it would complain to you because it's over like 30 lines. And that's because the longer your functions are, the more logic's in them, the harder it is to understand them. You know what I mean? Also, if you looked at refactoring by, what's that guy's name?
Refactor Guru?
No, not Refactor Guru. They use the same book, though. What's that guy's name? Why don't you look at the refactoring book while I'm doing this?
I'm looking it up. You go ahead.
All right, so I'm going to say equals get
Martin Fowler?
Martin Fowler, thank you. Jeez. He talks about this a lot. And he talks about, you know, the good time to refactor is when you're adding new features. And anyway, he talks about a lot more stuff. But I highly recommend reading that book. Because they have a JavaScript version. The second edition does.
Yeah, they do.
All right, cool. So that should work. So let's, you know, we just refactored. So let's run the code as Martin Fowler would tell us. Make sure we didn't break anything. Still good to go. Here, let's delete that just to give a sanity check. And we're good to go. Perfect.
Awesome.
All right, so let me refactor this. So now, like I said, we kept this to a single responsibility so we can name it something. So now we're going to say like parse those headers, right? So we're going to say create a new function called parse election headers. And that's all it does is parse those headers.
Right.
Okay, so let's do this.
Also naming these functions exactly what they do. Another part of refactoring.
Oh. Okay, so let's see, parsed headers. Well, I can just say row data, it doesn't matter. Equals parse election headers, and then we'll pass in that election headers. And this is also good here, is like, it's kind of coming up to a pattern called like the builder pattern. We're doing one thing, and then we're passing into the next step, passing the next step. Actually, that's not the builder pattern. Sorry,
no
pattern. But we're kind of pipelining here. Okay, we're piping. We're doing one item, and then we're piping into the next item. And this is a nice like layered architecture. Anyway, this high level concepts doesn't matter for one.
Sure.
But look at this. Look, it's already a lot smaller. Easier to read, making things modular. So in here, you can just read what we're doing. We're grabbing some HTML, we're parsing it, we're building a CSV. So we could separate this out a little bit more, but that's already good for now. So let's go ahead and do a for loop around this. Okay. And so what I want to loop over, I'm going to go ahead and minimize these functions, is I want to loop over the states. So I'm going to say for constant state of states. And then this URL, like I said, it takes that state code here. We have that in our list of states. We're going to replace that with a templated string. We're going to do some interpolation here, state.code. And so now this will parse for each state. And I'm going to go ahead and save the file each time. We could save it at the end, but just save it each time so we can see the updates.
Well, yeah, so it's two things. We want to see the updates because we're working right now, and going through all 50 every single time will be annoying while we're working. And then part of web scraping is saving as you go, because at any point in time, something could break.
Yeah, exactly. So we won't handle like failure right now, but that's a good thing to think about is like, what if it fails in the middle of it? Can you pick it up and then start from a different state? Because like, what if it took a couple hours to parse all the states? You know what I mean? Like you don't want to you want it to crash and then restart it and then it starts from scratch, you know? But anyway, it doesn't matter. We can just leave it right here for now, and let's just run and see what it does. And also, I'm already going to note that when you're scraping, you got to remember that you're kind of like a robot sending requests to the server. So we're going to add some wait time in between each request, just so they're not, we don't get blocked or something. But we'll do that later. Let's just see if this works. See if we broke anything. So all I did was refresh at the top right here. Actually, I didn't even see if it ran. It doesn't look like it ran. Let me just Oh, what happened? Oh, I broke something. So I did break
Oh,
something.
well, there you go.
Okay, so let me just go ahead and run it like normal so we can see these kind of things. All right, node index.js. All right, election header is not defined. So see, I refactored and then I broke something. So that's line 56 or line 33 here. Ah, yeah. Duh.
So okay.
I didn't pass
Not
election.
passing in.
Okay, cool. I should have ran it before I added the for loop. See,
Sure.
Martin Fowler would be so mad at me right now.
Oh yeah, furious.
Furious. All right, let me clear this. All right, there we go. And we got Alaska.
We got Alaska. There should be Alabama and Alaska, but I think you're overwriting it. You're not adding.
Exactly. So what we need to do is kind of pull this stuff out a little bit. So every time I'm writing line items, but I need to be like adding to a variable up top and then joining. So let's think about that a bit. So let's do line items up here equals an array.
Yep.
And then, we just talked all about this, but let's just forget about that for now. And so what we're going to do, not this, is, okay, so we're going to loop through all the states, build this big list of line items, and then save it at the end for now. That's what we're going to do.
Okay. So
so we got these line items.
Yeah. So these line items is a string.
State line items. Huh?
So the state line items right now will be a string. So what we want is the row strings, which is an array of strings.
Oh, okay. I'm getting myself confused with these strings. So let's call this CSV string. And line items is going to be joined. Okay, so I kind of went through that fast. Huh?
Yeah. Well, so then on line items, we'll add row strings every single loop.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So what I'm thinking is, we got an array of strings, which represents like this is one string, for instance. Sorry. Yeah. And so we're going to concatenate that with our global array. And so that at the end, we have this large list of strings, and then we're going to join those by lines, new lines, and then that's going to be our CSV. So that's a lot of talk. Let's just look at an example, walk through it.
Yeah.
All right. So line items dot, we can do push, and we can use the spread operator to concatenate. So this is a immutable way, although it is mutating.
Right.
But it's a better way to concatenate rather than saying like line items equals line items dot concat.
Right. Yeah.
So, all right, let's just see what it does. All right, so let's put a breakpoint here, and I think it's going to work, but let's just try it out. So go over to my debugger. I'm going to launch the program. Okay, so what do we got here? Let's take a step, and remember, a row string is a list of of events. So that's still there. I'll take another step, and then another step.
Now we're in another loop.
Yeah, let's take a look at, where do we see? Line items.
Go to
local init. Oh, it's right there, literally telling me. Okay, so you can see our line items has that Alabama in there. So let's just step through this a little bit and see what happens.
If you want to press, yeah, there you go.
Yeah, and now Alaska got added to this array up here. So got the Alabama election and got the Alaska election.
Awesome.
And so then at the end, we're going to join all of those by a new line, just like we were doing before with one state. And then we're going to save that to a file. Let's take a look at that file. Bam.
There we go.
Perfect. Okay, so that's looking good. We still want to have that state in there.
We want to have the state in there. Yes.
So let's do that. So how can we do that? So we have the state here. So I could just say.
So this row is an array of strings, and it has title and format. So what we could do is we could create another array with the state and then a spread operator for the row.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. All right, so we're going to return this. Okay, so what we want to say is, yeah, so what did you say? All right, so let's say new row equals new array, put in that row data, and then put, oh, actually, we want the state at the beginning. I mean, it doesn't really matter, I guess.
Yeah. But we want the state, and then we
put
want
the rest of the row.
Yep. And then we want to join that.
Yep. There we go. There we go. And then see, you know, I mean, we also could have passed an election header and let election headers do that. I mean, there's many ways to do this. Yeah, I mean, we could have also, you know, honestly, if you really want to keep it separated and piped, we would have done row data dot map and made new arrays so that like one function is taking care of strings and one is taking care of mapping the data. But, you know, let's not be overkill. You know, let's not think too far ahead. Let's just do a little bit. It doesn't look crazy. We're still under 30 lines for this. We can always refactor later. Can always refactor. That's the problem. People are always saying like, how do I do it 100% perfect? It depends. It depends on what you're doing. It depends on when you're scaling. There are better ways to do some things, but you know, you have to do
what you can. Yeah, and then it's all iterative.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so let's run this. Let's see what happens. I'm just running like normal.
Yeah.
Don't need to step into anything. All right, we got the state. Bam.
There we go.
Okay,
great. So now we have state, title, date.
Yeah. Yep, exactly. All right, so we're also missing our headers. Okay.
Yes.
So let's go ahead and add that line here. We can just hard code it. So we're going to do state. What do we have? State, title, date. Okay. Title, date. If I can type, comma. All right. Let's run that.
Yep.
And now we have a CSV. Bam.
Awesome.
Here we can just open up in Excel just to make sure. Nice.
And then our date's right there. Yep.
Perfect. Okay, so that's looking good. So like I said, one thing you want to do is not spam the server too much. So, you know, I feel like, what do I want to do? I guess we're good. I feel like I have an urge to abstract, but it's okay. It's not
right. Yeah.
So what I want to do here is I kind of want to do a wait, sleep, you know, for like a second. Oh, sorry. For like a second each time, or 500 milliseconds or something, just so the server doesn't, I don't want to spam the server. Like, I don't know if this is like hosted by someone personal website and I'm like spamming the server, breaking their Heroku website, you know, who knows?
Right.
So it's also just a courtesy, right?
Yeah.
This is
being a good web scraper.
Yeah, exactly. So I always have the helper function that I found online a long time ago, and it allows me to do this await syntax with sleep. And so all it does is return it promises a timeout. And so I won't go into too much detail, but it's a nice little snippet you can use. Steal it from us, steal it from GitHub.
There's also an npm package that's a one-liner if you want to install it like that.
Yeah. I mean, it's good. Okay, but yeah, we're gonna use that. And now let's check it out because we can wait. Oh, let's do a debugger so you can watch. Wait, no.
No.
Oh, let's just watch the file.
Yeah.
Oh wait, hold on. You can't see it.
Oh, it's not saving it every single time.
You know what? Let's add a message up here.
Yeah.
So .log.
Forgot it's not logging every time. We're waiting, and then we'll save everything together.
Yeah. This way we can also watch the process.
Yeah.
State. So function is getting a little long here, but it's not bad.
Yeah.
Still readable. Could definitely like have some function that just changes it to a CSV.
Right.
You know, we could also separate the CSV out and have like a function or a class that maps it to a CSV, and then we can have something that then we can always change it, right? If we want to do like table, and we might do this because eventually we have to save it to a JSON and stuff like that. So maybe we'll refactor when we do that.
Yeah, definitely.
Anyway, also should mention that we will have this library published on GitHub, so people can check it out, and there'll be a link in the show notes. Okay, so anyway, let's check this out. Let's watch it, that additional waits. That's the last thing we want to do. All right, so you can kind of see a little delay there.
Yeah.
Let me just pull over some more states, just for example. And we'll put them up here. Okay. Also, we can separate that out into a file, a JSON file.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to get too crazy on this tutorial. Just want to show you how to parse. And here you go. You can see that we're slowly parsing each one. Okay, cool. So that parsed it and created our nice CSV. So we can open that up in a second. But you did mention you want to see like a website, like Texas had multiple elections on the page. So here's Louisiana having multiple elections. Worked out pretty fine. I also have Mississippi. And did I already say Louisiana? Yeah. I think I did.
Yeah. So it looks like this is going to work for all 50 states. I mean, which is great. I mean, sometimes the scraper doesn't get it exactly like you want it. Looks like this is going to cover our entire use case.
Exactly. I do still feel like, we're going to
we can refactor right now if you want.
Yeah. Well, let's just pull it. Let's open it up real quick.
Okay.
All right. So it worked perfectly. Okay. So the problem is I already know that we're going to want to map this to a database object, right? And right now we're really, this is not good.
We're putting ourselves in a box.
Exactly. So we could do the row strings later, you know what I mean? So like I can pull this, I want to pull this out. I want to separate, my idea here is I'm trying to separate the mapping to the string from the rest of the code.
Right.
Let's just go ahead and separate it. So that's going to ruin my state thing here. So I no longer have state. So I'm going to take that out and just put it up here for now. And so this is good because now all my CSV building is in one place. Oh my gosh, hold on. Okay, so I'm building the CSV in one place. So if I want to change this, which I know I do later, to a database, all I gotta do is just change this line. So I'm actually going to say like constant, actually I'm just gonna say like get CSV string and then pass in line items. I'm gonna make it a variable just so it's easier to read.
Yep.
Oh wait, hold on, I deleted too much stuff. Let me do this. Function get CSV. Okay. And then I'm gonna return the CSV string and you need to pass in the row data. And then this needs to use row strings. Okay, so we map each row to a string. And then we're gonna take that whole array and squish it down to another string, which is the CSV. Okay, cool. So let's use that function. So we're gonna create a variable called CSV string, get CSV, pass in the line items here. And okay, so I went through that a little fast. So the code was already there, so that's why I went a little fast, but we will step through it just to see what it looks like. Because there's a lot of mapping. But one thing I need to fix before we do that is I want to have those new rows with the state. So there's two options. My immutability tells me like, just go ahead and map it. It's not that big of a deal. Performance junkies will be like, why don't you just handle that in this parse selection headers?
Right.
Parse selection headers does one thing. I don't want it to do another thing. So we can do it both ways. There's no wrong way here until you come into a conflict. So until you either hit a performance issue or until you hit a refactoring issue. There's no right way to do it until you hit those issues. And since I know that like Texas is the biggest one and they only have 6 items, it's not really going to be the limit right here, the O of N is only on 6. Okay. And it's it's 6 plus 6. I mean, so anyway, it doesn't matter. That's just, I'm just going to do it this way. If you guys don't like it, I'm sorry. So I'm going to do row data dot map. And all I'm doing is creating new rows. I already have those previously parsed information. And I'm adding the state to them.
Right.
So I'm just going to return that new row. So actually, I'll just call it row. It's fine.
Yep. And you'll need to.
Okay.
You'll need to add. So then we do. Now we have these new rows, and we just need to add those to line items.
Exactly. Okay, so let's step through this so we can see exactly what happens, because I did a lot of changes. Also want to make sure, I'm gonna run it once, make sure I didn't break anything.
Right.
And then we're gonna step through it and I'm gonna let you see what I did. But also if you already understand, if you got your stuff out of the lesson here, you know how to parse a website, you're good to go. We're just gonna do a little bit of refactoring because I know in our next video, we're gonna wanna save this to a database, and I'm trying to show you how to separate the formatting from the actual logic here, because we're gonna format, because I wanna make a new function later that's like get function, like get SQL statements,
right,
or get Mongo objects, and all I gotta do is pass in that row data and it returns the things I need to do. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So it's a good refactoring. All right, cool. Let's run it. Oh wait, hold on. I'm not gonna do all the states. Way too many states.
Yeah, just do like 2 or 3.
Yeah, let's do that, and I'm gonna take this down to 100. So, all right, let's do that. All right, I already got an issue. Row join line 65. Okay, so it doesn't like my row join.
So what is our row data?
Okay, so let's go ahead and do the breakpoint and debug it. All right, so my row data. Oh, okay. That first string that we hard coded is not an array. The rest of them are arrays. So like I already pre-formatted that hard code.
Oh, right. Okay.
So it's trying to do join on a string, which doesn't exist. That first item is a string.
So then we can
turn this to an array.
Turn it into an array, and then our line items are all arrays of arrays.
Yep. Okay. Also wish I had prettier, so it would just fix this for me.
Right. Maybe next time we'll have that set up.
Next time. All right. So there we go. Let's go ahead and refresh it.
Let's just make sure that is
there we go.
Arrays.
Now they're all the same type. See, if we had a type language, I would say, string arrays.
Sure. And then
didn't get validated.
But then we'd have to type all that. So
yeah. All right. So let's go ahead and play it. And we're good to go. Bam.
And that's great. Yeah. So it looks like we're getting all the data we need.
Yep.
Our scraper works for every single page that we want it to work for.
Yep.
We have it refactored, so it's actually readable.
Yep.
And we even have it refactored to get ready for our next video. Please subscribe. And so when we go to build a function, we're doing get CSV right now to separate actually building to save from actually extracting the data.
Yep.
Right now we're saving to a file, but we're going to do next video, we're going to be saving to a database.
Exactly. So we'll just have to change these 2 lines to save to database.
All right, great. Thanks, everybody. Hope you liked the video. Check out the links below, as well as a link to the GitHub where you can see all the code we did today. Leave any questions in the comments below. We'll be sure to get to those, and subscribe for more videos.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.